So here we are. Another day, another stage, another room full of people pretending they've got it all figured out. Masks on, smiles tight, nerves hidden behind neat little outfits and polite little nods. But me, I see it. The twitch in your eye, the tension in your jaw, that deep buried suspicion that maybe, just maybe, you're not like the rest of them, that something's been pulling at your ribs, whispering in your chest, begging you to look deeper, louder, wilder. You try to shake it off, act normal, fit in, but that voice, it never shuts up, does it? They told you to sit down, play nice, smile when you're spoken to. You nodded. At first, because that's what they teach you, isn't it? Smile and stay quiet. Don't stir the pot. Don't ask too many questions. Just fit in. Disappear into the crowd. Let the noise of others drown out the sound of your own heartbeat. Because the moment you stand up, the moment you speak too loud, laugh too wild, cry too hard, well then you're the problem. Suddenly the room gets a little colder, the stares get a little sharper, and the whispers, they start crawling up your spine like spiders in a dark alley. Funny, isn't it, how the world loves its comfort zones, and anyone who breaks the mold suddenly becomes a threat. But what if you were never meant to fit in? What if your whole life has been screaming at you to shake the table, not sit at it? You were not made to blend in, no, you were made to snap necks with your silence, to walk into rooms and shift the atmosphere. But they never told you that. They fed you lies with silver spoons, dressed up in pretty little phrases like humility and obedience, wrapped up rebellion and shame and called it misbehavior. They buried your fire under blankets of fear and asked you why you were so cold. Can you imagine the irony? Telling a volcano to stay calm, asking a storm to play gentle. But here you are, heartbeat like thunder, breath like smoke, and still trying to act like the others, still trying to speak like them, think like them, live like them. Let me ask you this. Has it worked? Has hiding the chaos inside ever made you feel more alive? Or has it just numbed you into forgetting what you were born for? See, the truth has a funny way of slipping out. It creeps in through cracks in your smile. It bursts out when your mask slips. And when it does, oh, the looks you get. But don't mistake their discomfort for your mistake. You were meant to be uncomfortable. You were meant to challenge the system, not become it. You weren't born to applaud what's wrong just to keep the peace. That's not peace. That's surrender. That's slow death dressed in approval. You were not designed to become wallpaper in someone else's story. You were designed to be the glitch in the simulation, the roar in a silent room. But you forgot, didn't you? Somewhere between childhood dreams and adult compromises, you forgot who you were. You let them trim your wings and convinced yourself you never had any. You stared at the ground for so long you started thinking the sky was a myth. But here's the secret they don't want you to know. Blending in is a form of self-erasure. Every time you shrink, someone else's comfort gets a little bigger. Every time you lie about what you feel, a piece of you fades into the shadows. You were made to disrupt patterns. Your presence is a warning shot to everything fake, scripted, and dead. And yet, you keep apologizing for existing too loud. They say too much, and you take it as an insult. You should take it as a badge of honor. They only say too much when they're used to people giving too little. You don't owe the world your silence. You don't owe it your obedience. What you owe it, if anything, is the truth of who you are. In full volume, no filter, no edits. Even if your truth is ugly, raw, or terrifying to them. Especially then, you were not made to blend in. You were made to stand in the middle of the fire and laugh, to walk through storms and light cigars with lightning bolts, to take the weight they threw at you and sculpt it into a crown. Every time someone tried to dim your light, you grew brighter, and they called it rebellion. But what they really meant was, you're waking up, and that scares us. They see you rising, and they panic because people like you, they shift timelines, they break curses, they cause revolutions with a whisper, but only if they stop apologizing, only if they stop begging for seats at tables they were born to flip. They didn't see you coming, but now that you're here, there's no turning back. You're not meant to blend in. You're the glitch. You're the storm they thought they could avoid by pretending the sky was clear. They act like they've got it all figured out, don't they? Like they're walking around with blueprints to life, as if every twist, every turn, every breath is calculated and approved by some invisible committee of mediocrity. They tell you, be realistic, follow the plan, don't dream too big. You ever notice how the loudest voices preaching limitations always come from the ones who gave up first? Oh, they're experts in warning you about cliffs they were too afraid to jump from. They'll talk about risk like it's a disease, and passion like it's a phase. But they never tell you what it's like to rot from the inside while living a life that isn't yours. Because that part's too real for their little comfort bubbles. See, people will try to convince you that staying in your lane is safe, that walking the same path everyone else does is the way to success. But what they don't say is that most people are just sleepwalking in circles, mistaking motion for meaning. They wear routines like chains and call it responsibility. Wake up, eat, work, smile, sleep, repeat, day after day, until one day the mirror doesn't recognize them and they can't remember when they stopped feeling anything at all. But hey, at least they followed the rules, right? At least they kept their heads down and didn't make a scene. That's the reward. Invisibility, a front row seat to the slow decay of dreams. You ever wonder why people get so uncomfortable around someone who knows exactly who they are? It's not envy, it's fear. Because if you know who you are, if you're loud about your truth, unapologetic in your chaos, then you become a mirror, and most people hate mirrors. They don't want to see the cracks. They don't want to see what's missing. So they point at you and say, you're too much, when what they really mean is, I'm too little next to you. They'll dress it up as concern, make it sound sweet. Just looking out for you, they say. No, they're looking out for themselves, for their delusions, for their fragile idea of how the world is supposed to work. You start to wake up, and suddenly the volume of your life turns up. The colors get louder, the silence gets heavier. You begin to notice how everyone's playing a role, mouthing lines that were never theirs, smiles rehearsed, conversations scripted. They ask you how you're doing, but don't you dare tell the truth, because truth makes people twitch. Truth doesn't fit inside polite conversations and filtered selfies. Truth is messy, it's loud, it's inconvenient, but it's also the only thing that will ever make you feel alive. And yet, most people spend their entire lives running from it, drowning it out with distractions and cheap dopamine hits. They don't want real, they want numb. But you weren't made for numb, You weren't made for small talk and half smiles. You were made for the fire, for the kind of presence that makes rooms shift, for the kind of voice that slices through the noise like a blade. And yet, somewhere along the way, you let them box you up, file you under safe. That's not your label. That's not your identity. You're not safe. You're not predictable. You're the curveball, the anomaly, the disruption they didn't see coming. And that scares them, because people like you, when you stop pretending, when you stop playing by the rules, they change things. The system doesn't like change. It likes patterns, obedience, compliance. So the moment you step out of line, they come for you with their labels. Crazy, difficult, delusional. They think words like that will cage you. But those words are nothing more than confessions of their own limitations. They call you crazy because you dared to dream with your eyes open. They call you difficult because you refuse to be manipulated. They call you delusional because you see possibilities they're too blind to imagine. So wear those labels like armor, because once you realize that their fear has nothing to do with you and everything to do with the mirrors you hold up, you'll stop trying to convince anyone of anything. You don't need validation from people who settled. You don't need applause from the quiet dead. What you need is to remember. Remember who you were before the world told you who to be. Remember what it felt like to want more, to believe in something bigger than comfort. And once you remember, once you taste that chaos again, there's no going back. The script won't fit in your mouth anymore. The mask will burn your skin. And that's the point. Because once you've seen the truth, once you've felt your fire, everything else feels like dying slowly in a room full of applause for a performance you never believed in to begin with. They told you the pain was a problem, that heartbreak should be hidden, that scars should be covered up with silence and makeup and polite little lies. But what if I told you the pain was the point? That what you call broken is the very proof you were alive while they were pretending. Everyone wants to be perfect, pristine, untouched. But what's the value in that? A glass doll looks nice on a shelf, sure, but one slip and it shatters into 1,000 forgettable pieces. Now take a cracked one, glued back together with rage, lessons, and a little bit of madness. That one has stories in every fracture. That one has been places, survived things, seen too much to care about what the world thinks. That one won't break again. Not because it's strong, but because it stopped fearing the fall. People avoid their pain like it's a plague, but it's the only thing real in a world built on fiction. Pain doesn't lie. It doesn't wear a suit. It doesn't fake a smile. It grabs you by the throat and demands honesty. Tells you who your friends really are, tells you where your limits end and your beginning starts. And if you listen closely, if you stop trying to run from it, it'll teach you more than any self-help book or motivational guru ever will. Because pain has no agenda. It just is. A raw, merciless reminder that you are still breathing, still here, still capable of feeling something deeper than the numbness everyone else calls life. They want you soft, compliant, dull, easy to control. Because someone who has faced their pain, wrestled it to the ground and stared it in the eyes, is dangerous. You can't scare someone who's already lived through hell. You can't shame someone who has already bled in silence. You can't silence someone who found their voice in the screams of their own chaos. And oh, they will try. They will label you traumatized, too emotional, overreacting. But those are just their words, for we don't understand your strength. Because strength, real strength, isn't loud, it's not flexing in a mirror or shouting on a stage. Real strength is waking up when you'd rather disappear. It's showing up with a shaky voice and a heart full of fire. It's choosing to stand when your knees beg you to kneel. But society? Oh, it's allergic to discomfort. It wants everything clean, tidy, explainable. And you're none of those things. You're a walking contradiction, a symphony of chaos and purpose. And that's why they're afraid of you. Not because you're broken, but because you survived being broken and kept going. Because you wear your darkness like a crown, and your pain doesn't make you weak. It makes you undeniable. You are proof that beauty can be born from destruction, that power can rise from the ashes of innocence. And they hate that because you remind them of what they lost when they chose safety over truth. Don't you dare shrink for their comfort. Don't you dare dim your light because it hurts their eyes. You are not too much. You are exactly what this world needs. Unapologetic, raw, real, and sure, you've got battle scars. But those scars, they're your credentials. They're the reason your words hit deeper. They're why your presence can silence a room. Because people feel your authenticity before you even speak. They feel that you've walked through fires they can't even pronounce. And maybe that intimidates them. But that's not your problem. Let them look away. Let them pretend you're too intense. You weren't made to be digestible. You were made to be undeniable, to shake things up, to walk into a room and make people rethink everything they thought was true. You weren't made to fit in. You were made to break patterns, bend rules, and burn bridges that lead to nowhere. And every time they told you to calm down, they were really begging you not to wake up. Because once you wake up, once you see how much power your pain gave you, you become not because you're fearless, but because you've made fear your fuel. You stopped running from it and started dancing with it, laughing in its face, asking it, that all you got? And when you show up like that, bruised, bleeding, but unbowed, people notice. Some are drawn to it. Others run from it. Doesn't matter. What matters is that you keep showing up. You keep being the one who feels too deeply, speaks too boldly, lives too loudly, because in a world full of masks and mannequins, someone who bleeds realness is a revolution on 2 feet. So here you are again, pretending like time is on your side. Tip, tip. You're not waiting for the right time. You're hiding behind fear, behind doubt, behind the idea that maybe if you wait long enough, your dream will come knocking with a bouquet and a bow. But dreams don't knock. They break in, they scream, they demand. And if you don't answer, they haunt you in every dull job, fake smile, and sleepless night where your stomach knots itself into a reminder of everything you did. People worship comfort like it's a god. Oh yes, they'll sell their soul for a predictable routine and a steady paycheck, even if it means slowly rotting inside. You ever seen someone walking around like a ghost? Not dead, just empty. They stopped chasing, stopped trying, stopped feeling. But they'll tell you they're fine, That cursed word, fine. The biggest lie in the dictionary. You weren't made to be You were made to shake the ground when you walk. You were made to lose sleep over a vision that no one else sees yet. You were made to be called crazy before being called genius. But you keep pushing that voice down, the one that wakes up at 3 a.m. and whispers, "There's more." The one that asks, "What if?" But nah, it's easier to scroll, to sleep, to wait for motivation like it's a package that got lost in shipping. You want a sign? Look in the mirror. See that flicker in your eyes? That's the fire trying to come back. That's the part of you they couldn't kill, not with school, not with rules, not with all the noise telling you who to be. It's still in there, clawing at the walls of your chest, screaming, "Let me out." But you silence it with logic, with responsibility, with other people's expectations taped to your back like a price tag. When are you gonna rip that thing off? When are you gonna stop being a product of their system and start being a problem for it? They don't want you to move. They want you stuck, tamed, predictable. But deep down you know you were never meant to blend in. You were meant to burn. So go ahead, keep pretending you've got time. Keep playing the safe hand, but just know, every day you wait, something in you dies a little. That's the tax of inaction. It doesn't hit all at once. It's slow, it's quiet, it's painless, until it isn't. Until one day you wake up and realize you don't recognize yourself anymore, that your dreams shrunk to fit inside a cubicle, that your ambition was suffocated by 1,000 little compromises you called maturity. And then what? You blame life, blame luck, blame your past. Nah, you look in the mirror and the real villain is staring right back. But here's the twisted beauty. If you're the villain, you're also the hero. That's the punchline. You've always had the power to flip the script, to burn the old narrative and write something so wild, so raw, so real, that even the stars lean in closer. But you've been waiting for permission. From who? Them? They're just as lost as you, but louder. Don't you get it? No one's coming. No one's gonna tap your shoulder and say, "It's time," because it's been time. Every excuse you use is a thread in the web that's choking you. You think greatness feels good? It doesn't. It feels like breaking, like standing in front of a crowd and wondering if they'll laugh, like working in the dark while everyone else is out partying, like failing and failing and failing again until something finally sticks. It's ugly, it's lonely, it's insane, but it's worth it because at least it's real. At least it's yours. At least you're not another sleepwalker, dragging their corpse from Monday to Friday, waiting for the weekend to feel alive again. You want change? Then move. You want more? Then leap. Not tomorrow, not next year, now. Rip the safety net. Burn the fallback plan. You don't need more time. You need more courage. You don't need a new year, you need a new mindset. And deep down, you already know what you have to do. It's not a mystery. It's not a riddle. It's the voice you keep ignoring, the feeling that gnaws at your gut when you settle for less, the storm inside you that's tired of being polite. Let it roar. You ever feel that itch? Not the kind you scratch with your fingers, no, this one's buried deeper, somewhere between your spine and your soul. It's like something's about to shift, like the air's got teeth and it's biting at your skin just to remind you that you're still alive. People walk around pretending they don't feel it, laughing, shopping, posting selfies, but you know, there's something crawling under the surface of this picture-perfect circus we call life. Something that whispers at night and punches you in the chest when everything's quiet. It's not anxiety, it's not nerves, it's truth trying to break out. But they trained you, didn't they? Taught you to keep it down, taught you how to blend in, sit still, follow rules written by people who lost their minds long before they lost their souls. Told you to ignore the signs. Signs? Oh, they're everywhere. That weird encounter with a stranger who seemed to know a little too much. That dream that felt more like a warning than a fantasy. That gut feeling that makes no logical sense but never lies. You brushed them off like dandruff, shrugged and said probably nothing, but deep down you felt it. The shift, the crack, the universe poking you with a sharp stick, saying, wake up before you're swallowed whole. They'll call it paranoia. They'll say you're overthinking. But what if it's them who are underthinking? What if your chaos is clarity and their calm is just a coma with Wi-Fi? See, there's a message you've been dodging, a message with blood on its teeth and urgency in its eyes. It's not asking anymore, it's demanding. Move, change, decide. Because time isn't going to stop and wait for you to feel ready. That itch you've been feeling, that's the signal. That's the final match before the whole forest catches fire. And you're standing there with a can of gasoline and a confused look on your face. But oh, they'll warn you. They'll say, don't go too far. They'll throw words like unstable, reckless, irrational. They're terrified of people like you, the ones who don't need a map to know they're lost. The ones who don't wait for a green light to hit the gas. You scare them. Because you remind them of what they buried. You remind them of the version of themselves they killed to survive. And guess what? Deep down, they envy you. They envy your unrest, your fire, your hunger to destroy the fake and build something brutal, beautiful, and real. You think this is a coincidence? That you're hearing this? That you've stumbled across these words on some quiet night when you should be asleep, dreaming boring dreams? No. This was timed. This was planted. Because someone out there is watching you. Not the kind of watching that invades your privacy, no. This kind watches your potential, watches your hesitation, watches you pace the cage, wondering if you're crazy or just finally waking up. You want to know why you're uncomfortable? Because the life you're living doesn't fit your soul anymore. You've outgrown your cage, but instead of flying, you keep trimming your wings to fit back inside it. You keep rehearsing the role they gave you like it's Shakespeare and not just a script written by someone too scared to live their own lines. Rip it up, burn it. There's no glory in being obedient to your fears. The world doesn't need another well-behaved dreamer. It needs a lunatic with a vision and the guts to see it through. Feel that shiver running down your spine? That's your warning shot. That's your invitation. That's the whisper turning into a scream saying now or never. You keep waiting for a savior when you've had the sword in your hand this whole time. You keep waiting for permission when the gate's wide open and the chains were never locked. You were born dangerous and they knew it. That's why they fed you rules like sedatives. That's why they dressed your purpose in normal clothes and told you to smile for the camera. But the camera's broken, the illusion's cracking, and you're standing at the edge of a moment that could split your whole life in two. Before and after. Mask and face. Lie and truth. It's not a question of if anymore. It's when. And more importantly, will you move before the ground does it for you?